We're going to call this meeting of the West Valley Water District Board of Directors to order. It is Thursday, June 12th. It is 2:03 p.m. And we'll start with the roll call of board members.
Thank you, President Young. Director Moore,
Here.
Director Bennett.
Here.
Present.
Vice President Jenkins.
Present.
President Young.
Present.
All board members are present. We have a quorum. Thank you.
Okay. And we will dispense with the pledge and the prayer, since this is just going to be just a special board workshop. So I know that we had those on the agenda, but we'll just it's just a workshop. So we'll dive quickly into public participation.
Thank you. Members of the public may participate and give public comment in one of four ways: in person at West Valley Water District's Administrative Boardroom, via telephone by calling 888-475-4499, access code 840-293-7790, via Zoom with access code 840-293-7790, or via email to administration@wvwd.org.
All right. Have we received any requests for public comment?
No, none in person or via email. I don't know about online.
All right.
Via
If there's
Zoom.
anyone online who would like to address the body, please at this time unmute yourselves or raise your hand icon. All right. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public participation and then take us to the budget workshop.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to thank the board for taking the time out of their day and changing their work schedules around to make it here today. And wanted to thank Jose and his staff, and really all staff, for working together on this proposed budget. And wanted to thank Finance Committee. We had some great questions and comments, and we incorporated those into today's workshop. And I think you'll see, between this year and last year, some continuous improvements as to our process, the budget process, and also the presentation. So with that, I'll turn it over to our CFO, Jose.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. I'm very excited to present fiscal year 2025-26 budget to you all and for the public as well. Like John stated, this was a collaborative effort. All the managers, supervisors. I came in halfway in the process, so I do want to thank Gustavo for setting up those meetings when I came the first week. So I really appreciate that. We do have staff here, managers from all the different departments, to answer any questions the board may have. I'm going to go through a brief presentation, and then once I complete that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions the board may have. So, get this PowerPoint. So I want to start with the budget process. I think it's very important the board understands the budget process that we took. Finance submits preliminary worksheets to staff. The department develops the budget request, and the preliminary budget is developed as we collect and create the first draft. Then we have budget planning sessions. So I'd like to stop here and explain that the process of that. I like to consider the budget as the framework for our strategic plan. I think it's very important to have a unified strategic plan, and the budget is pretty much the framework that really allows that strategic plan to have life through funding sources and through all the departments. Revisions. So the first revision was with the managers. Then I take a look at the worksheets, and we work together, the general manager, AGM, and myself, to have a third review over it and to make sure that the budget is following best practices and the spirit of the strategic plan. Then we take it to the Finance Committee, as we did this Monday, and we're in the process of the budget workshop for review and final adjustments. We anticipate board adoption June 26th of this year, and then we will distribute the budget to the stakeholders. Some budget development factors in consideration for this budget are, as you know, existing water rates, water source of cost for water source, projected water demand, customer growth, investment earnings, salary and benefits, inflationary pressures through energy and fuel, chemicals, and other supplies, our capital improvement plan to sustain infrastructure in a good condition, and debt service. This budget summary slide is a overview of the whole budget in snapshot. Key components here for the proposed budget 25-26 are total revenues, total $46.5 million. As you can see, it would cover operating expenses, debt service, and interest expense. And it would also cover half of our capital improvement program for this fiscal year. So what does that mean? It means that we would only need to use $8.1 million of reserves to complete this year's capital projects. As you know, over the years, we have built sufficient reserves to actually use them for the opportunity comes, which is this year now, to complete these key projects. So as you can see at the last line item, it's a balanced budget totaling to zero. So once we do a breakdown of the operating revenues, as you can see here, our operating revenues did decrease a little bit to $32.7 million for the proposed budget. And that's, if you look at line item for water sales, that's the reason for that is because we don't anticipate leasing the Chino Basin water rights this next year, which is included in the current budget. So that's why you see the decrease. But if you look at just consumption water sales itself, that did increase 2% for tier 1 and tier 2, and we kept it at zero, consistent at 0 for tier 3 as we anticipate the water conservation regulations kicking in and anticipate probably more of a wet year. For non-operating revenue, has done an amazing job for property taxes. We're anticipating $4.4 million. Our interest and investment earnings is at 4.2, which is really good compared to past years. And when I say past years, I'm talking 10 years ago. Obviously, right now we're taking advantage of the market of a higher yield, so we anticipate doing that. For the grants and reimbursements, we did include there a grant that or reimbursement that we anticipate receiving from Supervisor Baca for the Bloomington Alleyway project. And for the other category, we do anticipate receiving $3.6 million for the legal settlement, as the boards are well known on. So that totals of $13.8 million for non-operating revenues. Looking at the debt service, very important for the district. The debt covenant ratio right now for the proposed budget is very healthy at 6.4. What does that mean? That means that the district will be able to pay 6.4 times its debt cost projected. I do want to emphasize that our SRF payments for Romer expansion will start in fiscal year 26-27. For this fiscal year coming up, we are only considering the interest based on their amortization schedule. As we transition into the budgeted operating expenses, as you can see here, the pie chart breaks down the cost for the district based on function and or division. The operation is the largest amount of the district, as we all know. That's what we do. We put clean, safe, reliable water in the pipes at 44% of the cost. In this slide, we dive in a little bit more in detail of the operating expenses. I have three highlighted on your screen, and that's for engineering, as we do anticipate the largest increases in these three divisions. For engineering, the reason for that is because engineering has added a new water conservation specialist position to their division compared to last year's budget, how it was budgeted. They also have two critical studies that need to be made, the water use efficiency plan and the water master plan as well. For operations, the large expenses are power cost and resin exchange in the water treatment side. And for production and pumping is the salary and benefits increase that we incurred from this year. I'll stop here. I know this slide has a lot of detail. If the board has any questions.
Anyone have any questions? No.
Okay. We'll transition into authorized positions full-time. As you can see in the last years, we're holding the line at 88 authorized positions, and there's no different for this next fiscal year. I do want to note that this budget does include 7,000-hour part-time employees as well by CalPERS hour limit. The four vacant positions that we anticipate for next fiscal year is one in finance for customer service rep 1, engineering for project manager, in operations water systems operator 2, and chief water systems operator in production. Some of the positions are in transition already to be filled prior to fiscal year. That's why I didn't add them on here. This is just starting July 1st, the vacancies that the district will have.
But we are budgeting for all four positions.
That is correct.
Okay.
Like any prudent budget, we look at next fiscal year, but we also have a 5-year outlook. For this slide, what I really want to emphasize is that our operating system revenues alone are not enough to cover the operating expenses for the system. As you can see right there in the line where we see the red. Our non-operating revenue is real healthy and is really helping us maintain a positive net position for our budget. But as you could see, for fiscal year 29 and 30, we do see a loss there as well. So again, I do want to emphasize this budget does not include any projected rate increases that we've been seeing. So this is the rates as is. So as you guys, the district knows, the board members know, the actions for this next fiscal year will be to complete and implement the cost of service and rate studies this coming up year.
And Jose, so the budget before us, so assuming that we adopt it and then we continue to go through the rate study and the cost of service study, if we do end up making changes, will we then be looking at having to do an amended budget then probably very soon thereafter?
That is correct.
Okay.
As we anticipate having, if the board does give direction to do a rate increase, that would take effect January 2026, and at that time we would do an amendment.
Yep.
That's correct. And I think for the rate study, what I do want to emphasize, this next proposed budget is very strong. It's more the out years that we really look at, and from my perspective as the
Well,
CFO,
slide
have
really
concern.
shows that.
Yeah. Oh, and before I move forward, I do want to mention that our operating revenues, I projected a 2% increase year after year. And for our operating expenses, I projected a 3% increase year after year. as well. If you recall from the rate study, they have different factors of increases depending on the expense. So the rate model uses 3%, 4%, and 5%, depending on the type of cost that we have.
And the 2% is coming from our projected increase in connections.
That is correct. Good point. As we transition into the capital budget, I just want to, again, let the board know the capital investment in assets and projects have impacts on future operating expenses, both in increased cost or cost savings. And then our capital improvement plan is based on our 5-year planning schedule and our 10-year master plan as well. So for our total capital improvement projects, I broke it down by carryovers and new requests. The carryovers are broken out by capacity fee driven projects. As you can see at 13.9, which is our largest capital expense. And we also have $9 million from capital project fund, basically our operating reserves that we hold. And I also outlined the grant and community project funding as we do anticipate receiving those funds. For the new requests from contribution of operating revenue surplus, we have $5.6 million, and then capacity fees projects for $400,000. So as you can see, we took a new initiative in this capital improvement plan given by our general manager, basically saying budget what you foresee to complete 100% this next year. So we don't have that massive carryover moving forward. So that's one thing that this budget has changed, where we anticipate completing the projects close to 90 to 100%. This slide is a breakdown of the carryover top 10 projects listed here. The list shown here comprises of 90% of the total carryover projects, totaling at $25.2 million. The bigger project, as you know, is the Romer expansion, as we're completing that project soon, and our Lord Ranch facility improvements coming in that will be starting real soon as well. For new requests of top 10 projects, there's a list here, and the identified projects comprise of 70% of the total $5.9 million for new requests. And as I complete this presentation with my last slide, I look at the 5-year forecast of total reserves. I try to rearrange it and change it as directed by Director Garcia in our Finance Committee. So as you can see, our restricted reserves are going down, but not at the pace as our unrestricted reserves due to the capital cash outlay that we have planned in our CIP. Again, the actions required for this new fiscal year would be to complete and implement the cost of service rate study. But overall, the district's position is very healthy, and with that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jose?
I do. Okay, this might be a dumb question. I have a question about
Your
this.
microphone.
As far as this, for your budget for supplies and the CIP, are tariffs going to affect those prices, those budgets? Or did you put in a cushion for that?
So for the budget, as you could see, it's probably not on the presentation, but if we go to the summary page, the very first, this page. For the operating expenses, the percent change for this budget compared to current budget is a 5% increase. at $1.8 million that we did as initiative. And I do want to let the board know, I'm very proud of the staff of how we came together and really worked with me to really hold the line. Because as you can see, for current budget 34, it's increasing to 36. And that's considering there's a $1.8 million increase in salary and benefits. Just salary and benefits, there's a 1.8 increase. And we also have a $1.3 million increase in just one-time expenditures via resin exchange, studies that we have to create, we have to do that are not allowed to be in CIP. Also, Prop 218 costs, IT master plan, penetration testing, things of that nature. So we were able to hold the line in other areas, and managers were able to identify other categories where we could actually hold the line, and so like that, our budget wouldn't increase as much. So I'm very proud of the team for doing that. When we did the budget, we're considering not only trending, but also the latest costs that we are receiving from our vendors. Initiatives that we've done is making sure we continue looking at competitive pricing, national contracts to continue getting the best price for the district from that perspective. And also, whenever we can, do the work in-house. I think that's also very important.
I think maybe just adding a little bit on our, what's the tariff risk at the district? It's probably relatively low compared to other industries, and probably most of that risk is in our new construction projects. But even within those, probably the electronic, some of the mechanical components that are produced overseas.
Okay.
So, I mean, we've been seeing a lot of
Okay
increase in our
financially
construction.
this budget with that, that's what I'm trying to say.
Sorry?
We have it factored in here if there's a
Well, we're
bump or
probably
something.
not, I mean, we're projecting future construction costs. Within that is probably some recognition of tariff risk on
Okay.
certain components, but yeah, we've not specifically probably looked ahead and identified in our future projects, what electronic components are coming from China, for example. Rocky?
And then I think the way we're planning to approach some of those risks, there's so many unknowns with that. Tariffs are going up and going down as well to impact our projects. So we have a contingency in our capital improvement program that's over the entire program, so that we can tap into if we do see large cost increases. And even our contractors and our vendors are asking for help in how to mitigate these risks.
Okay.
And we've ran that through our legal counsel, and we're trying to come up with an approach that's fair to the contractors and the district. But what it basically means is we need to be monitoring tariffs regularly, and that may result in capital improvement project change orders, but that would be covered in our capital improvement program contingency budgets if it was an increase.
That's the answer to my question. Secondly, I have one other one. On the HR piece, factor positions that you have and ones that you're asking for are included in this budget, right?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, we're only budgeting for 88 full-time positions. If during the course of the year we identify a need to increase staff, we'll bring that to the committee, bring that to the board. If they agree, we'll look to do a budget amendment.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions? Angie?
I do have a question, but it's on the spreadsheets. And so I'm looking at the the proposed operating budget summary for non-operating revenues. And if you could just elaborate on the non-operating revenues where you have 11,000% difference.
Oh, on the percent, okay. Yeah, so on that other non-operating revenue, the reason that percent is so high is because for our current budget, we didn't anticipate receiving more than $32,000 there. And for this fiscal year, I placed there our litigation or legal settlement for PFAS there that we anticipate receiving.
Is it guaranteed that we're gonna get it during this fiscal year?
Yes.
You had other questions? Or?
I don't have any more questions. Your presentation was very thorough. Thank you.
Dan, you have any questions?
No, I was fortunate enough to be on the finance committee, and we went over the budgets, including speaking about a couple of HR projects or possibilities. So Director Garcia and I had a thorough education of what's going on. I appreciate Jose and Gus and the team for what they've done.
All right,
Thank you.
great. Well, Jose, thank you to you. Thank you to Gus, to John, Linda, the whole team, all the managers, all the staff, all the supervisors. You guys, I think, put together a really great budget. I only found two items that I had questions on, so that's pretty good for me.
Is that a record?
It's probably, it is. I mean, we'd have to go back and look at past recordings, but just overall, just want to say, it looks really great, guys, and I really appreciate the presentation and the feedback, and and I really do appreciate all the departments kind of trying to tighten their belt, especially as we are looking to going into possibly considering rate increases later this year, because we are looking at those outlying years. So I do appreciate everybody trying to do what they can to mitigate costs within the departments. But again, overall, I only found a couple items that I had questions on, but overall, I thought it looked really good. If you go to page 14 of the detail under the Romer arsenic, and I probably just need a little more detail, but so about the third line down, you have PM contract with total organic carbons and HACH analyzers. So you're bumping that up to 30,000 when it looks like last year we only spent about 14,000 out of a $16,000 budget. Are we anticipating more use on that contract versus prior years, or is it still more or less the same job description as before?
I can answer that. That is a new analyzer. So last year we didn't have that analyzer. This year we do.
Okay. And so the current contract covers that, or is there going to be a new contract?
It will be a new contract.
Okay. Okay. All right. The next question I had was on the next page, page 15, under the Romer treatment plant, contract cleanout activities. So with the sludge, you're asking for a pretty big increase there. Now, are we expecting that much more increase of state water project usage to where we need almost a 3.5 times increase in sludge removal? I mean, I am fine with it if that's what you really need, but it doesn't look like we used as much last year.
Yeah, because of the Roma plant expansion, there are a lot of plant shutdowns. So with the expanded plan, we don't anticipate any plant shutdown
Okay.
downtime, and then we do want to exercise the new plant muscles and really,
I mean, it just seems like 3.5 times is quite a bit more usage, and I didn't think that we were adding that much more capacity, but okay, if you say so, I'll take your word for it. But and then the next one, as far as the arsenic, kind of the same question, kind of on that one, as far as are we using more of the arsenic wells than we previously have?
well 2, arsenic main well is well 2, currently is still being rehabilitated. So once the well is done, sometime this month,
Okay.
we do plan to run the arsenic plant at full capacity because we do have a blending plant now.
Okay. So the lower number this current year is more of a factor that it's been offline.
Yes, it's been offline.
Okay. All right, well, that makes sense to me then. So it looks good, folks. So those were literally the only things I found. So again, kudos to everybody. Really appreciate all of your hard work. And any other comments or questions from the team?
I just want to clarify. I think during the committee meeting, we spoke about possibly, having a discussion about like scholarship money for potential students for the next fiscal year. Did we say we were going to add it or talk about it in mid-year? I don't remember.
Well, we can look at, this current budget does not include additional budget for these prospective internships and 1,000-hour internship positions. At this point, we think it's a good idea. We're still building the details of the program. We expect to bring that back to the committee and board in the next 6 months. But the cost of those items are very small, so it'd be easy to incorporate them into the existing budget. Like whether we had like a couple 1,000-hour internship positions and kind of that summer explorer program for juniors and seniors.
Yeah, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the 1,000-hour positions are different than the positions that we're looking at for the high schoolers?
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure, we talked so much during that
Yeah.
committee meeting, some of it became a blur, but I just want to make sure that we don't forget about that in the budget. Because right now, it's not in the budget, right?
Right.
Okay.
We have the existing kind of continuing 7,000-hour workers budgeted. And if we do it, we're kind of thinking we're going to add a couple internships, a couple 1,000-hour internships on top of that. Just don't have the details right now that we felt comfortable putting it in this budget. But kind of expect to see it later this year if the board agrees.
As kind of mentioned, we're probably going to be having to do a pretty big amendment to this later in the year anyways, if we do the rate increases, as we probably will have to.
Hopefully we'll hear back from on our AMI grant application soon, and
Yeah, so there'll
that
probably
could
be a
have a
lot
big
of
impact.
a lot of little things that
Or
we'll
not.
probably need to amend at that point.
And CIP potential for
Mhm,
things like
mhm.
that.
Yeah.
I just want to thank the committee for putting this presentation and all these tables together. I mean, I can't imagine how much work it took, but thank you very much for doing that. It was very clear and concise, and it was accurate, so thank you.
I want to thank the Finance Committee too for the dialogue. I think that's very important for providing feedback to staff, and we did take it to heart, and we take our job seriously with a lot of responsibility to make sure that the Finance Committee is heard and we produce a good product for the board.
All right. Was there any other direction or advice that you need from us to finalize?
Just for looking ahead to the next board meeting, we'll be bringing this business item back. There's probably a public hearing related to that. So I think we'd probably want to do
It's
the
certainly not a
presentation
public
again.
hearing, it's just a business item.
Public
Business
meeting,
item.
business item.
Yeah.
This item.
But I think you'd probably see this presentation again for
yeah.
the public.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we'll want to have it so the public can kind of get the highlights as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, unless you guys
Okay.
have any other things that you need direction from us on, I think it looks pretty good to us from the sounds of it.
We're good?
The legal cost? Yeah, it's built in under the.
It's in here. It's under probably
the
admin overall.
operations, general operations, I think it is, right? Is where the legal is?
It's an admin for legal
Admin.
services.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. So unless anyone else has any other suggestions or potential changes, I think you guys have put together a really great budget. Anything?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. We're adjourned. Have a good one.
Nice.